Waitress is betrayed. Then the Sheikh says, let's get our revenge on them. Comment telling me what you thought of this story with a rating from 0 to 10, and comment what city you're seeing me from. I really want to know if you liked my story, and I want to get to know you better, so subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The constant noise of Soho seemed like a distant whisper compared to the frantic movement inside the oasis. Amelia Rose skillfully balanced 3 plates on a tray, her precise steps navigating between the black marble tables that reflected the golden light of the crystal chandeliers. It was Friday night, and the restaurant pulsed with the energy of the Manhattan elite who gathered there to close billion-dollar deals between sips of French wine and 30-year-old Scotch whiskey. Her black hair was tied in an elegant bun, a few rebellious strands framing her delicately featured face. The restaurant's black uniform, which on any other waitress would look ordinary, on her gained an air of sophistication that did not go unnoticed by the male eyes that discreetly followed her through the room. Amelia had long since learned to ignore the stares, always maintaining a professional smile and the impeccable posture that made her the most requested employee at the establishment. As she served a table of Japanese businessmen, her cell phone vibrated in her apron pocket. A message from Alex. "Love, are you working late tonight? I miss you." She smiled slightly, typing a quick reply before returning to work. Alex always showed this affection, this concern that made her feel loved and important. In their 2 years of dating, he had been her safe harbor, especially in the most difficult moments after her father's death. Across the room, at a reserved table by the window overlooking the bustle of Prince Street, Khaled Al-Mansouri watched the scene with attentive eyes. His impeccably tailored Italian suit contrasted with the loneliness he carried on his broad shoulders. 42 years well lived between the Kuwaiti desert and the concrete jungle of New York. But life had taught him that money could buy everything except true companionship. It was the 3rd time that week he had dined alone at the Oasis, always at the same table, always ordering the same dish. Lamb with pomegranate sauce, a recipe the chef had created especially for him that awakened sweet memories of his homeland. But Khaled knew it wasn't the food that brought him there so often. It was her, Amelia Rose. He had memorized the name by discreetly reading the golden name tag she wore on her uniform. There was something about that waitress that intrigued him deeply. It wasn't just her obvious beauty. He knew plenty of beautiful women in his social circle. It was the way she treated every customer with the same respect, whether it was a commodities magnate or a young executive trying to impress a girlfriend. It was the dignity with which she performed her job, as if waiting tables were the most important profession in the world. Khaled closed the laptop, where he was analyzing reports of offshore oil drilling, and allowed himself to watch her more closely. Amelia was attending to a table of wealthy women who clearly treated her with disdain, making comments about the waiting time and the temperature of the wine. He saw how she maintained her composure, her cordial smile, even when one of the clients made a comment about the level of service dropping loud enough for others to hear. Something stirred in Khaled's chest, a mixture of admiration and indignation he hadn't felt in years. Since the death of Layla, his wife, he had built emotional walls that seemed insurmountable. Superficial relationships, casual encounters, women who were more interested in his bank account than his soul. But here was a woman who didn't even know who he was beyond the customer at table 12 who always orders lamb. Amelia approached his table carrying a bottle of red wine. "I'm sorry for the delay, Mr. Al-Mansouri. The sommelier was checking the vintage you always prefer." Her voice had a soft New York accent, but it carried an education that defied prejudices about her origin. "Don't worry," he replied, and for the first time in months, his voice carried genuine warmth. "You are always very attentive." Amelia smiled. A real smile this time, not just a professional one. It's the least I can do. You are one of our kindest customers. As she served the wine with graceful movements, Khaled noticed small details that would go unnoticed by others. The well-kept nails despite hands that clearly knew hard work, the subtle perfume that couldn't completely hide the smell of the restaurant's cleaning products, the medium-heeled shoes that, although elegant, showed signs of intense use. "May I ask an indiscreet question?" he said suddenly, surprising himself with his spontaneity. Amelia paused, the bottle still in her hands. "Of course, sir. Did you always want to work in restaurants?" The question caught her off guard. Customers never asked about her life, her dreams. It was as if she were just part of the decor, a functional element of the sophisticated environment. "Actually," she said, lowering her voice slightly, "I'm saving money to finish my degree in business administration. I stopped when my father died 3 years ago." Khaled nodded, a look of understanding crossing his face. "Business administration. What specific area?" "Business management. I've always had a knack for numbers and strategy. My dream is to have my own company one day." She laughed softly, as if her own ambition were something fanciful. "I know it must sound pretentious coming from a waitress." "On the contrary," Khaled said, and his voice carried a conviction that surprised her. "Ambition combined with practical experience is a powerful combination. Many businessmen I know have never set foot on the factory floor or served a single table." Amelia felt something strange in her chest, a mixture of validation and recognition she rarely experienced. This man, clearly successful and influential, not only truly listened to her, but also took her aspirations seriously. "Well," she said, trying to regain her professional composure, "let me get your appetizer. The chef prepared something special today." As she walked away, Khaled followed her with his gaze, observing how other customers treated her, how she navigated the social complexities of that environment with a natural grace that denoted sharp emotional intelligence. There was something in that woman that awakened protective instincts in him that he thought had died with Layla. Across the restaurant, Amelia felt her heart beating strangely. Never had a customer shown genuine interest in her life, her dreams. Alex always said she dreamed too big, that she should be content with what she had. But that man, whose name she only knew from the golden credit card he used to pay the astronomical bills, spoke to her as if her ambitions were not only valid, but admirable. She didn't know that, at that very moment, 15 kilometers away, in a dimly lit office in an outer Ibarra, Alex was kissing another woman with the same passion he had once shown her. Tiffany Miller, with her bleached blonde hair and easy smile, represented everything Amelia was not. Content, without great ambitions, satisfied to be just the girlfriend of an administrative assistant who earned minimum wage. "When are you going to break up with her?" Tiffany asked, adjusting her bra after the hurried encounter between piles of documents at the logistics company. "Soon," Alex lied, as he had been lying for 6 months. "It's complicated. She depends on me a lot emotionally." The truth was that Alex felt increasingly diminished next to Amelia. Her beauty drew attention wherever they went. Her ambition made him feel mediocre. Her job at the Oasis, even as a waitress, put her in contact with a world of sophistication and possibilities that he could never offer. Tiffany, on the other hand, made him feel important, successful, desirable. Meanwhile, at the Oasis, Amelia returned to Khaled's table carrying an appetizer of hummus with shredded lamb and warm pita bread. The chef said it's a family recipe of his. They emigrated from Lebanon 50 years ago. Khaled took a spoonful and closed his eyes, clearly transported by memories. "Perfect," he murmured. "It reminds me of the food of my childhood." "Are you from the Middle East?" Amelia asked, genuine curiosity tinging her voice. "Kuwait. I came to the United States 15 years ago to expand the family business." He paused, studying her face. "And you? Big family? just me and my mother now. She's a seamstress, works from home. I've been supporting both of us since my father died." There was no shame in her voice, just the pragmatic acceptance of a responsibility taken on too soon. Khaled nodded with respect. Early responsibility forges character. It must have been difficult to drop out of your studies. It was, she admitted, and for the first time, her voice carried a trace of vulnerability. "But Alex always says that when we get married, I can go back to school. He'll take care of everything." Something tightened in Khaled's chest upon hearing the boyfriend's name, a pang of irrational jealousy that surprised him with its intensity. "Alex, my boyfriend. 2 years together. He works in logistics. He's a sweetheart, very protective, very caring." She smiled, but Khaled, trained to read between the lines in complex negotiations, noticed something forced in that smile. "Does he support your professional dreams?" The question slipped out before Khaled could stop it. Amelia hesitated for a second. "He says a beautiful woman doesn't need to work so hard. That when we're married, I can dedicate myself to being a housewife, maybe have children. And what do you want?" The question caught her completely off guard. When was the last time someone had asked what she wanted? Not what was expected of her, not what would be more practical or safe, but what her heart truly desired. She began, then stopped, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "I want to build something of my own. I want to prove that a girl from Queens can get wherever she wants. I want my mother to be proud, not just because I'm a good daughter, but because I'm a strong, independent woman." The passion in her voice awakened something in Khaled's chest. It was as if he was seeing the real Amelia for the first time, not the professional waitress, but the ambitious and determined woman hiding behind the black uniform and polite smile. "Then do it," he said simply. "What do you mean? Finish your degree, build your company, prove to yourself that you can achieve anything you desire." Amelia looked at him as if he had suggested she fly to the moon. "Mr. Al-Mansouri, with all due respect, you don't understand. I need to work to support my family. I don't have the luxury of dreaming." "Who said dreaming is a luxury?" Khaled leaned slightly forward, his intense brown eyes fixed on her green ones. "Dreaming is a necessity. It's what moves us, what makes us get up every morning with purpose." For a moment, the frantic movement of the restaurant seemed to stop. Amelia found herself lost in those eyes that seemed to see beyond her appearance, beyond her profession, straight to her soul. There was something about that man that made her feel seen, recognized, valued in a way she hadn't experienced in a long time. "I should," she said, breaking the moment, "let you dine in peace." "Amelia," he said her name for the first time, and the way it left his lips made something tremble inside her. "Thank you for this conversation. It was the most interesting moment I've had in months." She nodded, confused by the emotions that brief exchange had awakened, and moved away to attend to other tables. But for the rest of the night, she found herself discreetly glancing in his direction, watching him eat alone, work on his laptop, speak on the phone in a language she assumed was Arabic. There was a loneliness in that powerful man that echoed her own, a feeling of always searching for something she could never find. Khaled, for his part, extended his meal longer than usual, ordering dessert and then coffee, any excuse to remain in that environment where he could watch her work. Every smile she directed at other customers aroused an irrational pang of jealousy in him. Every time he saw a man look at her with interest, his fists clenched involuntarily. When he finally prepared to leave, Amelia approached with the card machine. "I hope you enjoyed your meal, Mr. Al-Mansouri. As always, it was perfect." He paused, looking directly into her eyes. "Amelia, may I give you some unsolicited advice?" She nodded. "Never let anyone diminish your dreams. You have something special, a strength I noticed the first time I saw you. Don't let the world convince you otherwise." With those words, he signed the bill, left a generous tip, and left the restaurant, leaving Amelia with a racing heart and a confusion of emotions she couldn't name. That night, as she returned home on the last subway that served her part of Queens, Amelia couldn't get the conversation with that mysterious customer out of her mind. His words echoed in her ears, awakening dreams she had buried under the weight of responsibilities and others' expectations. She didn't know that the next day her life would change forever in a way she could never have imagined. Thursday began like any other day for Amelia. She woke up at 6 in the morning in the small two-bedroom apartment in Queens, made coffee for herself and her mother, checked if she had enough money for the subway fare, and left for another day of work. But something was different. Since the conversation with Khalid al-Mansouri the night before, a strange restlessness had taken over her thoughts. Throughout the entire journey to Soho, she found herself thinking about his words on dreams and ambitions. "Never let anyone diminish your dreams." The phrase echoed in her mind like a mantra, awakening a dormant courage she didn't know she possessed. Upon arriving at the Oasis, Amelia went straight to the locker room to change. Her colleagues were already gossiping about the mysterious customer from table 12, who always specifically asked to be served by her. "Girl, that Arab guy is interested in you," said Carla, a more experienced waitress who had worked there for 8 years. "A rich man like that doesn't waste time talking to an employee out of politeness." "It's nothing like that," Amelia replied, but she felt her face flush. "He's just kind." "Kind and single," added Rachel, another colleague. "I saw him here again last night, and the way he looks at you. Girl, if I were you, I wouldn't miss this opportunity." Amelia shook her head, trying to push those thoughts away. She had Alex, a solid 2-year relationship. She couldn't be thinking about another man, no matter how interesting their conversations were. The day passed quickly between orders, demanding customers, and the intense lunch rush. Khaled didn't show up, and Amelia was surprised by the pang of disappointment she felt upon realizing he had broken his routine. She tried to convince herself it was just because she enjoyed the intellectually stimulating conversations, but deep down she knew there was something more. At 7 in the evening, when her shift was almost over, Amelia decided to surprise Alex. There was a portion of the Oasis's famous lasagna left over, the one that cost $150 and that she could never afford on her salary. The chef always let the employees take the leftovers home, and she thought it would be a loving way to show her boyfriend her affection. She took 3 subway lines to get to the logistics company office where Alex worked as an administrative assistant. It was a simple commercial building in an outer borough, very different from the sophistication of Soho. At 9 o'clock at night, there were still some lights on in the upper floors, indicating employees working overtime. Amelia went up to the 5th floor, where Alex's company was located. The door was unlocked, which was strange, as he always said the building closed at 8. She walked down the dimly lit corridor, hearing her own footsteps echo on the cheap ceramic floor. The door to the office where Alex worked was ajar. Amelia approached with a smile, imagining the surprised look on his face when he saw her there with the special dinner. But what she saw, through the crack in the door, made her world collapse in seconds. Alex was leaning over the desk, passionately kissing a blonde woman she recognized as Tiffany, a co-worker he casually mentioned in conversations. His hands explored her body with an urgency and desire that Amelia hadn't seen directed at herself in months. Their clothes were disheveled, clearly indicating that the situation had been developing for some time. "I love you," she heard Alex whisper against the other woman's lips. "I can't stand pretending with her anymore. When are you going to end this farce?" Tiffany replied, her nails trailing down his back. "I'm tired of hiding." Soon, love. It's just that she's very dependent. It's going to be difficult. And also, he paused, and Amelia forced herself to keep listening, even feeling as if she were dying inside. She supports her mother alone. She'll make a terrible scene, but I confess, I'm tired of having to put up with all that talk about college and her own company. With you, it's easier, more real. Amelia felt the takeout container slip from her hands. The noise it made when it hit the floor echoed down the corridor like a gunshot. Alex and Tiffany separated immediately, and he ran to the door, finding her standing there, her face washed in tears and an expression of complete devastation. Amelia, I can explain, he stammered, trying to button his shirt hastily. 2 years, she whispered, her voice broken. 2 years of my life, me working like crazy to support the house, dreaming of our future, and you. She looked at Tiffany, who didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. How long? That doesn't matter now, Alex tried to approach, but she recoiled. It does matter. How long have you been lying to me? 6 months. Tiffany answered with cruel coldness. And honestly, it was a relief when he stopped talking about you all the time. Alex deserves someone who values him for who he is, not someone who dreams of being something she'll never be. The cruelty of the words hit Amelia like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the revelation that everything she believed about her relationship was a lie. Alex didn't love her for her ambition and determination. In fact, he felt diminished by those characteristics. You're a coward, she said, finding strength from somewhere deep inside her. If you didn't love me anymore, if you didn't believe in me, you should have ended it, not made a fool of me for 6 months. Amelia, please, let's talk. No. She wiped the tears with the back of her hand. We have nothing more to talk about. I hope you'll be very happy together. She turned and ran down the corridor, ignoring Alex's shouts for her to come back. She bolted down the stairs, left the building, and only stopped running when she reached the subway station, breathless and shattered. During the entire trip back home, Amelia cried silently, watching the city pass by the blurred window of the train. It wasn't just the pain of betrayal, but the humiliation of being seen as someone inferior, someone whose dreams were a source of irritation for the person who should have supported her unconditionally. When she got home, her mother, Rosa, immediately noticed something was wrong. "What is it, sweetie? Did something happen?" Amelia told her everything between sobs, leaving her mother indignant and furious. "That boy was never any good," Rosa said, hugging her daughter. "I always thought he was very insecure around you. A real man doesn't diminish a woman, he helps her grow." "Mom, how was I so blind? 2 years thrown away." "They weren't thrown away, honey. You learned what you don't want for your life. And look, you're young, beautiful, intelligent. Someone who truly deserves you will come along." On Friday, Amelia arrived at work with swollen eyes and a sadness she tried to hide behind professionalism. Her colleagues immediately noticed something was wrong, but she asked them not to talk about it. The day was particularly difficult. A table of businessmen had complained about the soup's temperature 3 times. A woman had yelled at her over a delay in the kitchen, and a customer had made inappropriate comments about her appearance. Amelia endured it all in silence, feeling like she was operating on autopilot. At 8 in the evening, as she was serving a table near the entrance, she saw Alex and Tiffany walk into the restaurant. They came hand in hand, clearly wanting her to see them. Alex was wearing a shirt she had given him for his birthday, and Tiffany was in a flashy red dress that contrasted with her blonde hair. "Look at this," Tiffany said loud enough for Amelia to hear. "What a fancy place." "Alex, you've never brought me to a place like this before." "That's because I can spend more now," he replied, also in a loud voice. "I no longer have certain responsibilities." Amelia felt her face flush with humiliation. They were deliberately trying to hurt her, publicly flaunting their new relationship in the place where she worked. Some customers began to watch the situation, sensing the tension in the air. It was at that moment that Khalid al-Mansouri entered the restaurant. He had arrived earlier than usual and immediately sensed that something was wrong. Amelia's eyes were red. Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to maintain her professional composure, and there was a couple near the entrance, clearly trying to provoke her. Khalid didn't need much to understand the situation. The protective instinct that had awakened the night before erupted in his chest like a volcano. He walked deliberately to where Amelia was, who was trying to serve a nearby table without looking in Alex and Tiffany's direction. "Excuse me," he said softly, gently touching her arm. Amelia turned, surprised to see him there. "Mr. Al-Mansouri, good evening. Your usual table is—" "Amelia," he interrupted, his voice filled with tenderness and determination. "Are you okay?" The kindness in his voice broke the last defenses she was holding up. Tears began to form in her green eyes. "No," she whispered. "I'm not okay." Khalid glanced quickly at the couple who continued to make loud comments, clearly trying to humiliate Amelia publicly. Something primitive and fierce awoke within him. Without a second thought, he gently pulled Amelia by the waist, bringing her close to his body. "Then let me fix this," he murmured, and before she could respond, his lips met hers in a kiss that surprised them both with its intensity. The entire restaurant seemed to stop. Customers turned their heads, employees stopped their activities, and Alex stood with his mouth open, unable to process what he was seeing. Amelia Rose, the waitress he had dismissed as worthless, was being passionately kissed by one of the richest and most powerful men who frequented that establishment. For Amelia, the world disappeared. Khalid's kiss was not just an act of protection or revenge. There was something real there, a connection she had never experienced. She surrendered completely to that moment, feeling as if she were finally finding something she had been searching for her whole life, without knowing it. When they parted, Khalid kept his hands on her waist, looking directly into her eyes. "Now everyone knows you are not alone," he said quietly, just for her to hear. Alex was pale, clearly in shock. Tiffany looked furious at having lost the spotlight. The other customers whispered among themselves, speculating about the nature of the relationship between the waitress and the tycoon. "Khaled," Amelia whispered, using his first name for the first time. "What did you do?" "What I should have done a long time ago," he replied. And there was a conviction in his voice that made her believe that moment would change everything forever. The silence that followed the kiss seemed to last an eternity. Amelia felt her heart beating so hard she was sure everyone in the restaurant could hear it. Khalid's hands still rested on her waist, firm and protective, while his brown eyes studied her with an intensity that made her forget where she was. She began, but couldn't finish the sentence. Her mind was in complete chaos, torn between gratitude for him defending her dignity and confusion about what that kiss really meant. Alex approached the table where they stood, his face red with anger and humiliation. "Excuse me, sir, but you're meddling where you're not wanted. Amelia has been my girlfriend for 2 years. Khalid turned slowly to face Alex, and when he spoke, his voice carried a cold authority that made several nearby customers stop talking to listen. He corrected, emphasizing the past tense. "And from what I observed, you voluntarily abdicated that privilege when you decided to humiliate her publicly by bringing your new companion to her place of work." "You don't know anything about our story," Alex retorted, but there was a clear insecurity in his voice. The class difference between him and Khalid was stark. The clothes, the posture, the way of speaking, everything indicated that Alex was completely out of his league. "I know enough," Khalid replied calmly. "I know she deserves much more than a man who cheats on her and then comes to publicly display his infidelity." Tiffany, who had been watching the situation in silence, decided to intervene. "Listen here, you snob. You don't know Amelia. She's one of those who plays the victim to get what she wants. Alex told me how she manipulates situations. The lie was like a slap in the face to Amelia, but before she could respond, Khaled took a step forward. His physical presence was imposing, and there was something in his eyes that made Tiffany involuntarily step back. "I suggest you both leave," he said, his voice low but filled with threat. "Before I decide to make this situation much more uncomfortable for both of you." The restaurant manager, Robert, who had noticed the growing tension, approached discreetly. He knew Khaled well. He was one of the establishment's most important clients, responsible for at least 30% of the monthly revenue in expensive wines and corporate events. "Is there a problem here?" the manager asked, already knowing he would side with Khaled in any conflict. "These customers were just leaving," Khaled replied without taking his eyes off Alex. Alex realized he was at a complete disadvantage. The situation had spiraled out of his control, and staying would only increase his humiliation. "Let's go, Tiffany," he muttered, taking her hand. "This place isn't for us anyway." "Alex, you're not going to let this guy talk to us like that, are you?" Tiffany protested. "Let's go," he repeated more firmly. As he passed Amelia, he whispered low enough for only her to hear, "You'll regret this. That guy just wants to have fun with you." After they left, Amelia felt her legs weaken. The adrenaline that had sustained her during the confrontation began to dissipate, leaving her with a mixture of relief, gratitude, and absolute confusion about what had just happened. "Do you need a moment?" Khaled asked gently, noticing she was visibly shaken. I should get back to work," she replied automatically, her professional training trying to take over. "What you should do is sit down and breathe for a bit." He looked at the manager, who was still nearby. "Robert, would it be possible for Amelia to take a 15-minute break?" "Of course, Mr. Al-Mansouri. Amelia, go rest. Marcos can cover your tables." Khaled guided Amelia to a more private corner of the restaurant, a small area where employees usually took their breaks. He pulled out a chair for her to sit and knelt beside her, bringing himself to her eye level. "Breathe," he said softly, slowly. Amelia obeyed, trying to control her rapid breathing. "Why did you do that?" she asked when she found her voice. "Because you didn't deserve to be humiliated like that." Khaled studied her face carefully. "And because I've been wanting to do exactly that for days." The honesty of his answer surprised her. "Khaled, I don't know what to say. You barely know me. I know enough to know that you are an extraordinary woman who was in a relationship with a man who couldn't see your worth." He paused as if weighing his next words. "Amelia, can I be direct with you?" She nodded. "From the first time I saw you in this restaurant 3 months ago, you've awakened feelings in me I thought were dead. It's not just your beauty, although you are the most beautiful woman I have ever met. It's your strength, your dignity, the way you treat people. You have something special that most people take years to develop." "I'm just a waitress," she whispered, still struggling to process everything that was happening. "You are so much more than that, and it's time you..." Started to believe it. Khaled gently took her hands in his. "That kiss, it wasn't just theater to provoke your ex-boyfriend. It was real. What I feel for you is real." Amelia looked into his eyes, searching for signs of falsehood or manipulation, but found only sincerity and a vulnerability that surprised her. This powerful man, who could probably have any woman he wanted, was there, kneeling beside her, declaring his feelings like a love-struck teenager. "Khaled, our lives are completely different. You're a billionaire businessman. I barely finished high school. You attend meetings with ministers. I serve tables. How could this possibly work? I don't care about those differences. In fact, they attract me. You bring me a perspective on life that I lost a long time ago. You remind me of the simple things that truly matter." He gently squeezed her hands. "Amelia, give me a chance. Let me show you how you should be treated. What if you get tired of me? What if you realize we really are from very different worlds? And what if I don't get tired? What if we discover that we are exactly what the other needs in life? Khaled stood up and extended his hand to her. Want to find out? Amelia looked at the outstretched hand as if it were a portal to a completely new life. All the voices of common sense in her head screamed for her to refuse, not to risk it, to protect her already wounded heart. But there was something in the way he looked at her, in the sincerity in his voice, that made her want to believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved something better than what she had known so far. "All right," she said finally, placing her hand in his. "But slowly. But I need time to process all this, all the time you need," he promised. In the following days, Khaled began to court Amelia in a way she never imagined possible. He appeared at the restaurant every day, but not just for dinner. Sometimes he would arrive at lunchtime, just to talk with her during her breaks. Other times, he would appear at the end of her shift to accompany her to the subway station, always respecting her when she said she preferred to go home alone. He discovered small details about her life that Alex had never been interested in, knowing that she loved reading classic novels on weekends, that she dreamed of visiting Europe, that she was afraid of heights but loved airplanes, that her favorite color was blue because it reminded her of the sea she only knew from photographs. "Why have you never been to the beach?" he asked in one of their conversations. "I never had money to travel," she answered simply, "and when I was little, my parents worked so much that there was no time for outings." "That will change," he said, with a conviction that made her believe it really would. A week after the incident with Alex, Khaled extended an invitation that left Amelia completely speechless. "I want to take you to dinner. A real dinner, not here at the restaurant where you work. Will you accept?" "Khaled, I don't have suitable clothes for the places you go," she replied, insecurity evident in her voice. "I don't care about your clothes. I care about you." He paused. "But if you would feel more comfortable, I can take care of that." "What do you mean?" "Let me take care of you. Completely. For one night, let me show you how a woman like you should be treated. I can't accept expensive gifts. It's not a gift. It's an investment." Khaled smiled. "An investment in our future together." The word future made Amelia's heart race. For the first time in her life, someone spoke about the future with her, without it sounding like an obligation or a favor. "All right," she said, feeling as if she were jumping off a cliff, "but I'll pay you back when I can. If that makes you feel better, I accept. But know that for me, anything I do for you is worth every penny just to see you smile." That Saturday, Khaled sent a car to pick Amelia up at her home. Inside the vehicle were 3 bags from expensive Fifth Avenue stores. A navy blue dress that enhanced her green eyes, high-heeled shoes that made her feel like a princess, and delicate accessories that perfectly complemented the outfit. Rosa watched her daughter get ready with a mixture of pride and concern. "Honey, just be careful. Very rich men sometimes have ulterior motives." "Mom, he's not what you're thinking. Khaled treats me like I'm the most important person in the world. And maybe you are, honey. Maybe. You really are." When Khaled saw Amelia getting out of the car in front of the 5-star restaurant where they had arranged to meet, he felt as if he was seeing an angel. The dress transformed her, but it was the confidence she radiated that truly made her shine. "You look stunning," he said, offering her his arm. "You too," she replied, admiring how the dark suit enhanced his already impressive appearance. During dinner, they talked like never before. Khaled told her about his childhood in Kuwait, about how lost he felt when he arrived in the United States, about the pain of losing his wife and how he had closed himself off to love ever since. Amelia shared her deepest dreams, her insecurities, her fears about the future. "You know," she said while tasting a dessert that cost more than she earned in a day's work, I still can't believe this is happening. It feels like a dream. For me too, Khaled admitted. I haven't felt so alive, so complete in years. Complete. You fill empty spaces in me that I didn't even know existed. He took her hand across the table. Amelia, I know this might seem very fast, but what I feel for you goes far beyond attraction. You make me want to be a better man, and you make me believe I can be anything I want to be, because you can. And I will be here to support you every step of the way. When dinner ended, Khaled accompanied her home, but this time he didn't say goodbye at the door. Rosa invited him in for coffee, curious to get to know the man who had won her daughter's heart so suddenly. Mr. Al-Mansouri, she said as she served coffee in simple cups, that, contrasted with the luxury he was accustomed to, are your intentions with my daughter serious? Completely serious, Mrs. Rosa. I intend to ask Amelia to marry me as soon as she is ready for that step. The declaration surprised even Amelia, who almost dropped her coffee cup. Marriage, she repeated. When you are ready, he reinforced, looking directly into her eyes. I have no interest in games or casual relationships. You are the woman I want to build a life with. That night, after Khaled left, Amelia stayed awake late, looking out her bedroom window at the distant city lights. Her life had completely changed in a matter of weeks, and she was still trying to process it all. She didn't know that, on the other side of the city, Alex was also spending a sleepless night, consumed by regret and a rage that grew with each passing day. The image of Amelia in the arms of that powerful man tormented him, and he began to plot ways to destroy the happiness he had lost through his own stupidity. 3 months had passed since that first dinner, and Amelia's life had transformed in ways she had never imagined possible. Khaled had fulfilled every promise made that night at the restaurant. He enrolled her in an intensive business administration course at a renowned private university, hired private tutors for English and French, and gradually began to include her in aspects of his business that did not involve confidential information. Amelia discovered she had a natural aptitude for business strategy and human relations. Khaled frequently consulted her on the company's social projects, valuing her unique perspective on the American reality that he, despite his 15 years in the country, still observed through the lens of his privileged position. You have an insight I will never have, he said one morning, as they reviewed a sustainability project for disadvantaged communities. You understand these people because you were one of them. That is invaluable. Amelia had resigned from the Oasis 2 weeks prior, a decision she made with Khaled's full support. He wanted her to focus on her studies and truly discover her professional passions without the pressure of needing to support the household alone. Rosa had been against it initially, worried about her daughter's financial dependence on a man, but Khaled won her over when he offered her a job as a seamstress in one of his companies, with a decent salary and full benefits. I don't want Amelia to feel pressured to stay with me for financial need, he explained to Rosa. I want her to choose to be with me every day because she truly wants to. Their relationship had evolved naturally and intensely. Khaled revealed himself to be a deeply caring man behind his business facade, and Amelia discovered a sensuality and self-confidence that Alex had never awakened. They spent hours talking about everything, from philosophy to plans for the future, from childhood memories to more ambitious dreams. Khaled had bought an apartment for them in Soho, near the neighborhood where they met, but respected Amelia's request to maintain certain traditions. She still visited her mother every day, still cooked simple traditional dishes on Sundays that she had learned from Rosa, and still maintained friendships from her old neighborhood that connected her to her roots. I never want to forget where I came from, she said one night as they prepared dinner together at home. Those experiences shaped me, and I don't want to lose them just because my life has changed. And that's exactly why I love you, Khaled replied, hugging her from behind as she cooked. You haven't changed your essence, you've just expanded your possibilities. The word love had become natural between them. Khaled said it first, 3 weeks after their first date, during a weekend they spent in the Hamptons. Amelia reciprocated without hesitation, realizing that what she felt for him transcended everything she had previously experienced. I love you not just for what you do for me, she said on that occasion, but for who you helped me discover I am. The couple's happiness, however, did not go unnoticed by Alex, who had spent the last few months consumed by jealousy and regret. His relationship with Tiffany had ended after 2 weeks, when he realized she was exactly what she appeared to be: superficial, materialistic, and incapable of offering the kind of intellectual and emotional stimulation he had found with Amelia. Alex had tried to win Amelia back several times, sending messages, showing up at her old apartment, even trying to intercept her at the university. All his attempts were politely but firmly rejected by her, which only intensified his obsession. You don't understand, he told a mutual friend. That Arab guy brainwashed her. The Amelia I knew would never reject me like this. She was in love with me. The reality was that Alex couldn't accept that Amelia had found a man who valued her completely, something he had never done. The wound to his male ego had turned into a thirst for revenge that consumed him day and night. It was through a former colleague from the Oasis that Alex discovered Khaled had proposed to Amelia the previous week. The proposal had happened during a trip to Paris. Amelia's first time out of the country. Khaled organized everything in minute detail, taking her to the top of the Eiffel Tower at sunset, where he knelt with a ring that had belonged to his late grandmother. "Marry me," he had said, his eyes misty with emotion. "Not because I need you, but because I can't imagine a life without you." Amelia said yes without hesitation, realizing she had found not only a great love, but a partner for life. They set the wedding for 6 months later, enough time for Amelia to finish her first semester of college and for them to organize a ceremony that honored both Khaled's Arab traditions and her American ones. The news of the engagement was the last straw for Alex. In his desperation and bitterness, he made the most cowardly and destructive decision of his life. He decided to blackmail Amelia with intimate photos he had taken during their relationship. Alex called Amelia on a Tuesday night while she was studying at home. "We need to talk. It's important." "Alex, we've already talked about this. I'm happy with Khaled, and you need to move on. It's about the photos I have of you." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Alex felt a sadistic satisfaction realizing he had managed to shake her composure. "What photos?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "You know very well. I have several. From our time together." His voice carried a malice Amelia had never perceived before. "It would be a shame if they reached the press, or even the partners of your billionaire fiancé." Amelia felt the world spin. "Alex, you can't be serious. I'm very serious. You have 48 hours to break up with him and come back to me. Otherwise, these photos will circulate all over New York City. Just imagine. The scandal. The waitress who conquered the Arab tycoon." "You're sick," she whispered, her voice broken with disappointment and fear. "I'm in love, and if I can't have you, no one else will." Alex hung up, leaving Amelia in absolute panic. For 2 hours, she sat on the sofa, trembling and crying, not knowing how to tell Khaled about the threat. When he came home from a business meeting and found her in that state, he immediately knew something was terribly wrong. "Love, what happened?" he asked, kneeling beside her and pulling her into his arms. Through sobs, Amelia told him everything. She spoke about the photos, the blackmail, the fear that it would destroy everything they had built together. She expected to see disappointment in his eyes, perhaps even anger directed at her for having put herself in that vulnerable situation in the past. Instead, Khaled displayed a cold, controlled fury she had never witnessed. "Where is he?" was the first thing he asked. Khaled, don't do anything rash. Amelia, he interrupted, taking her face in his hands. Look at me. This man is trying to destroy our happiness through blackmail and intimidation. Do you think I'm going to allow that? But the photos, if they leak... I don't care about photos. I don't care about scandals. I don't care what anyone might think about our relationship. His voice was firm and filled with conviction. I care about you, about our future together, and about the fact that someone is trying to harm us. Khaled picked up the phone and made a series of quick calls, all in Arabic. Amelia didn't understand the words, but she could tell from the urgency and authority in his voice that he was mobilizing considerable resources. 3 hours later, Alex's phone rang. On the other end of the line, an unfamiliar voice with an Arabic accent spoke calmly. Mr. Brody, my name is Khalil Al-Rashid, an attorney for Al-Mansouri Holdings. I understand you possess certain images of my client's fiancé and are using them for blackmail purposes. I don't know what you're talking about, Alex stammered. I have here a complete recording of the call you made to Miss Rose 3 hours ago. Extortion is a felony, punishable by several years in prison. Revenge porn is also a crime with its own serious penalties. Alex was in a panic. Listen, You have 2 options, Khalil continued, unperturbed. First, you hand over all images and the devices where they are stored within the next 2 hours. You sign a legally binding agreement to no longer contact Miss Rose or her family, and this incident will be forgotten. Second, my client will use all available legal and financial resources to destroy your life completely and irreversibly. That's a threat. No, Mr. Brody. That is a promise. My client built a $50 billion empire by being meticulous and determined. When someone threatens what he loves most, those same qualities become very dangerous for anyone who challenges him. Alex hung up the phone with trembling hands. 2 hours later, he delivered all the devices and images to Khaled's lawyer, signing an agreement that legally barred him from approaching Amelia or speaking publicly about her for the rest of his life. When Khaled came home that morning, he found Amelia awake, anxiously waiting for news. It's resolved, he said simply. He will never bother you again. How did you do it? Money and influence are powerful tools when used to protect the ones we love. Khaled sat next to her, pulling her into his arms. Amelia, I want you to understand something. There is nothing in your past, no photo, no scandal, no situation that could change what I feel for you. I chose you completely, with all your history, all your experiences. No one will ever use that against us. 6 months later, Amelia walked down the aisle of a historic church in downtown Manhattan, wearing a dress that had been specially created for her by a renowned designer. Rosa, radiant in an elegant ensemble that Khaled had custom-made for her, accompanied her to the altar where her future husband awaited. Khaled was stunning in a traditional tuxedo, but it was the emotion in his eyes that truly took Amelia's breath away. When she reached the altar, he whispered words in Arabic that she had learned meant my soul, my heart, my life. The ceremony was a celebration of the union not just of 2 people, but of 2 cultures, 2 histories, 2 journeys that met at the right moment to create something greater than the sum of their parts. During the reception, Amelia looked around and saw the smiling faces of people who genuinely celebrated their happiness. Classmates from the university, employees from Khaled's companies, his relatives who had flown in from Kuwait, especially to meet her, childhood friends from Queens who mingled naturally with businessmen and diplomats. We did it, Khaled whispered in her ear during their first dance. We built our own world, she repeated, looking into the eyes of the man who had transformed her life, not through his wealth, but through his ability to truly see her. Years later, When Amelia had become a partner with Khalid in several companies and social projects, when they had had 2 children and built a family empire based on love and mutual respect, she would look back and know that that night at the Oasis, when her world crumbled with Alex's betrayal, was actually the moment her true life began. Alex never fully recovered from the humiliation and legal consequences of his actions. He moved to another state where he works in minor jobs and still carries the bitter taste of regret. Tiffany moved on with her life, eventually finding someone compatible with her superficial nature. But for Amelia and Khalid, the end was really just the beginning of a love story that transcended social and cultural differences and all the adversities the world tried to place in their path. They proved that true love knows no barriers when it finds 2 souls determined to fight for their happiness, building a future together based on respect, passion, and mutual growth that would last forever. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story, giving a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.